Don't get real used to it until about a week away, and then I'll see you like every day after that, hopefully.
Meeting, if you would, please silence all of your mobile devices.
Boy, none of this here tonight. Boy, it must be something going down.
Ready? This time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting for 6 p.m. Tuesday, February 13th, 2024, in the city council chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas. Have with us on the dais District 2, Grady Simpson. District 3, Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem. We have District 4, Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. And not with us this evening, but is excused, is District 5, Phil Robinson. Also have our city manager, Mike Sims, our city attorney, Greg Schumpert, and staff. At this time, Grady, would you please lead us in invocation? If you would, stand and remain standing for the pledges.
Bow our heads, please. Father God, we come giving you thanks for your peace, for your oneness and unity. We come giving you thanks for your wisdom and power. We ask that you will allow us to share in your love, that you will protect us, help us to use our free wills responsibly to make decisions for you here on earth. So as it be done in heaven, as it is here on earth, pray for more of your spiritual wisdom and power. Pray for our government officials all over the nation. And yes, here in Terrell and Kaufman County. All in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Next on the agenda is mayor and council community recognition and events. I would like to thank all of those who are in the audience this evening to be recognized. And just want to go ahead and say up front that once we do the recognition, the rest of it's boring. So if y'all would like to leave, you're welcome to. If you want to stay, you're welcome to stay as well. But we'll pause a moment once we do the recognitions, give you an opportunity to leave the Chamber Council. First off, I would like to say Happy Fat Tuesday to everybody. This is the time that we're going to go into Lent, and with that, I have Brother Knights. If I didn't mention this, I would be in trouble. The Knights of Columbus is having fish fries on Friday, and they'll be from 6 to 8 at St. John's Catholic Church. If anyone wishes to come out and partake in that, we'd love to have you. I think the cost is $12 for adults, all you can eat, and $10 or $6 maybe for the kids. So if you're out and about on Friday evening, love to have you. This time we would like to recognize the Black History Month, and we typically do that with a proclamation. I am going to use my counsel this evening. Grady Simpson, would you please read into the record our proclamation for Black History Month?
Yes, Mayor. This is from the Office of the Mayor of the City of Terrell, Proclamation, Black History Month. Whereas Black History Month is an annual observation originating in the United States, and whereas the precursor to Black History Month was created in 1926, when historian Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History designated the second week of February as Negro History Week because it coincided with the Abraham Abraham Lincoln's birthday on February the 12th, and abolitionist Frederick Douglass' birthday on February the 14th, both of whom black communities have celebrated since the late 19th century. And whereas in 1969, Kent State students and teachers conducted the first celebration of Black History Month, and whereas during the next decade, the movement continued to grow with President Gerald Ford officially recognizing it in 1976. And whereas Terrell had been fortunate to have a long history of influential black leaders in many fields, including medicine, athletics, entertainment, business, and public service. And whereas dozens of black educators were instrumental in improving educational opportunities for local students, including W.H. Burnett, whose 44-year career with Terrell ISD as a teacher, principal, band director, and earned him the distinction of the Texas State Historical Marker and the naming of a campus in his honor. And whereas Herman Furlow, Jr., whose 34-year tenure as TISD teacher, counselor, coach, and principal was recognized by naming a middle school after him to pay tribute to his legacy. And whereas Mayor Francis Anderson also served as an educator in Terrell ISD for 22 years before changing careers and paving the way for future servants after being elected as the District 2 council member and later as a city first black mayor in 2002. And whereas the city supports TISD's continued efforts to pay tribute to the contributions of these influential leaders with a month-long celebration culminating with the Terrell ISD Black History Month program celebrating diversity, culture, and legacy on February 27th, and whereas Terrell is home to Southwestern Christian College, one of 9 historically black colleges and universities in the state of Texas. And I, therefore, I'm not the mayor, excuse me.
Yeah, no,
but I, therefore, in speaking for Rick Kimona, by virtue of authority vested in him as mayor, on the behalf of the city of Terrell, do hereby proclaim February as Black History Month.
Thank you, Grady. That's wonderful. And you know what? The problem that the mayor has is that there's so many that need to be recognized, and I can't get them all in there. But know that the mayor and the city and residents and the council understand that there was so many influential folks that were part of the city of Terrell that we want to say thank you to each and every one of them and their families. So thank you, Grady, for doing that. Next, Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, you're going to do the Social Science Club proclamation.
Yes, and at this time, I will ask our Social Science Club board members and members that have joined us today to come up and then all go down to the floor and read it as well. And I'm sure that our Social Science Club group maybe has some remarks or updates on the home tour and everything that we do.
Oh, and by the way, our councilwoman is a member of the Social Science Club. Is that correct? And that's the reason
I play
why
a
you're
small
gonna
part,
read it.
yes,
Okay,
and
all right.
the ladies that are in the room today, they played a big part this
Right.
year in the Social Science Club home tour,
Yes.
which raises funds. But I will allow our board.
If y'all would
here.
please come forward, and she's going to come read this thing.
And then feel free to get lined up because Allison was going to want to take a photo here shortly. All right.
I would come and stand, but this, all women's go, it's tough, that's powerful. That's very powerful, yeah.
We'll make sure everyone can join shortly. So, whereas the Social Science Club of Terrell was chartered on October 3rd, 1894, and whereas the club was founded by 14 of the town's most socially prominent women, and whereas the Social Science Club was initially created to serve as a cultural opportunity for sharing literary studies, arts, and music within its circle of members, and whereas club members soon realized that their influence on the decision makers of the day could help improve local living conditions for Terrell citizens, and whereas in 1897, the Social Science Club of Terrell joined 20 other women's clubs in Texas to found the Texas Federation of Women's Clubs. And whereas the club provided $10,000 in funding grants to build the Kearney Library in 1904 and donated 15,000 books upon its completion. And whereas by 1917, the General Federation of Women's Clubs was comprised of hundreds of local, regional, state, and national members, with 2 million women from 46 states unified in efforts for social, educational, and humanitarian change. And whereas Social Science Club members provided volunteer service to the Red Crossing during World War I and World War II, and whereas throughout its 130-year history, the Social Science Club has continued making contributions to the Terrell community, donating in excess of $330,000 from 1915 through 2022, the 107-year period in which records were kept. And whereas the club has awarded scholarships to high school students, has funded city beautification projects, and has sponsored the Christmas Home Tour for 25 years. And whereas the Social Science Club also has promoted major historical, educational, and social justice endeavors at the state level to educate, benefit, and improve the lives of fellow citizens. Now, therefore, by the virtue of the mayor and behalf of the Terrell City Council, do hereby proclaim February the 13th as Social Science Club 130-year anniversary celebration day. And do we have remarks then?
Would anybody like to
Sure.
speak? Yeah.
We're going to have Tori introduce herself.
All right.
I'm Tori Lucas, and I know I'm among friends, so I'm comfortable standing up here to tell you a little bit more, but that was a beautiful proclamation. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for that. I serve as our current president of the Social Science Club, and one of the most common questions we get at every tour is, what is social science? And I find it interesting, the definition is that it's one of the branches of science devoted to the study of societies and the relationships among individuals within those societies. In addition to sociology, it now encompasses a wide array of academic disciplines, which we pride ourselves in growing our knowledge as women that belong to this organization. It also encompasses anthropology, archaeology. We haven't quite endeavored to grow our knowledge there. Economics, human geography, linguistics, management science, communication science, psychology, and political science. And there are elements of every one of those things laced throughout our meetings, but where our heart is serving our community. We stand on the shoulders of giants in this organization. When I think about the women that lived through the early 1900s, the 50s, the 60s, when women were not near respected like they are today, we are very proud to belong to this organization and are doing our very best to continue its legacy, and we appreciate your support.
Wonderful. Congratulations. Yeah, that's well said. So, yeah, let's get to the council.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah, come on.
I have to say.
Oh, this is, here, stand in the middle of the mayor.
In front of the podium? That'd be awesome. There you go.
Where's our mayor?
He's coming around.
No.
Come on, Mayor, come on in there.
So normally the mayor will give a
Velasquez.
I don't have anything but this pen. That's our eclipse. This is celebrating our eclipse for this.
The day we are all supposed to stay home, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, you bet.
Thank you, sir. Sorry. It's all right.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Well, I just couldn't hold my motion. How proud she would be of all that. Oh, well.
I surely hope she will definitely be proud
Oh,
of what they've done.
Yeah. That was one of her big things, was the Social Science Club, I'll tell you.
That's all.
All right, our next item on the agenda? Yes, oh, yeah, we have a couple more.
Mayor, I'm going to give you two notes. One is that I wrote down a note that say some people like to think of February the 13th as the day to remember that tomorrow is Valentine's Day, because you may or may not have a loved one that you want to remember on Valentine's Day. That's a little note for some people in the audience. Then the other thing I'm going to note is that we do have a person close to our family who passed away recently. Buzz Sorter passed away recently, and the visitation and the funeral are ongoing now over at Max Slayton's. And Buzz Sorter is the father of Lisa Sorter Malone. Lisa was the executive assistant for myself and for Mr. Edwards for many years. Worked her for 15 years, and just one of those really beloved people who really contributed to the city during her time with us. And we're always big fans of Lisa Sorter Malone. And her mom and dad used to stop by from time to time because it's Terrell, and they were a close-knit family. And so we got to meet him quite often. So I just wanted to pass our thoughts as an organization on to their family during this time. So, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, and condolences to the families. At this time, we have here remarks from visitors. Did anyone call? So we don't have anyone to speak there. All right, our next item on the agenda is item, yes.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right, Dwight Malone? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
Good evening, everybody.
Yes, sir. If you would, please, when you get to the mic, state your name and your address, please.
Okay,
And move the mic towards you so we can make sure we get it.
okay.
There you go. Thank you, sir.
My name is Frank Roy Malone. I was born in Terrell, 1942. I'm 82 years old. Been a kind of rough life for me here during my lifetime. But I want to just address the city council on the traffic problem out here. These people running stop signs, doing 80 miles an hour down Rockwall Avenue. Same thing on Moore Avenue, all over town. One person got killed. They're about to run over people every day. There's no one stopping them. We need to take a halt to it. So I wish you address that problem. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next item on the agenda is 4.1. It's conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding a zone change from agricultural AG to single family 6.0, SF 6.0. Property is located at 1324 South Rockwall, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, and it's ZC 24-01. This is going to be handled by our municipal development analyst, Jana Wampler.
Good evening. I am bringing you tonight a request for a zone change application. The address is 1324 South Rockwall. And for you that have been born here like me all our lives, this is that empty lot that's just north of the Gilbert Willie Elementary. We've gone by, driven by those lots right there. We have an applicant who is the owner, and she bought the property in February of '23, and she would like to combine those two lots, 54 and 55, into one lot to build a single-family 6.0 residence. The current zoning for that lot is agriculture. It is the same as the school and then a church nearby. The front lots that face the north are zoned 6.0. The south, again, is agriculture. On the east side, fronting South Rockwall, is single-family 6.0, and on the back side of that block that fronts Park Street is zone 7.5. We sent 23 letters out within a 200-foot buffer, and we had one reply in favor of the zone change. I presented this to the P&Z on January the 25th, and it was approved by a vote of 5-0. The next page is the application, identifying the applicant. The third page is a location map. So you see here, it's highlighted in blue. The school is to the south, and then you see then the neighboring houses there. Those houses have been there for ages. And then the back along Park Street. The next map is our zoning. So the green is agriculture. The light pink is the 6.0 single family, and then the yellow greenish is the single family 7.5. The next page is our future land use, which indicates it is a traditional neighborhood. The next page is our letter announcing to the individuals within a 200 buffer zone of this city council and the public hearing. Next map is our buffer map, which explains how far we went out. And then a list of our neighbors there in that 200 zone. The last page is the plat map that shows the two lots, 54 and 55. So if this is awarded today, then the applicant will be required to submit a replat to join lots 54 and 55 into one single lot before applying for a construction plat.
Okay.
And I will pause if you have any questions.
No, thank you for those, that update, and then we'll bring you back up on item
Okay.
4.2. This is a public hearing, council, so at this time, we will open the public hearing to receive comments regarding a zone change from agricultural AG to single-family 6.0, SF 6.0. Property is located at 1324 South Rockwall, Terrell, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. Is there anyone to speak on this matter? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and move on to item 4.2. Greg?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we bring to you tonight ordinance number 3032, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, amending Appendix 2 zoning ordinance of the City of Terrell by changing the zoning classification on certain real property, more particularly described as lots 54 and 55, Block 2, Fagan Addition to the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, and also known as 1324 South Rockwall Street, Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, from agricultural AG to single family 6 SF6, as shown on the property description attached hereto as Exhibit A and made a part hereof for all purposes, providing for severability and providing an effective date, ZC 24-01. This comes to you tonight on first reading.
Okay, council, this was, again, as Ms. Wamper said, was P&Z a unanimous vote of 5-0. And when they sent the letters out, there was only one received, and that was in favor of the public zoning. So is there any questions? Do I need to bring Jana back up? Does anybody have any questions? No? You're good? All right. Again, this is ordinance number 3032. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance number 3032.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 4, to approve ordinance number 3032 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 5.1. This is discuss February, May 2024 calendars. This will be handled by our city manager, Mike Sims.
So, Mayor and Council, while Dawn takes a well-needed night off, we'll be covering here for her, and I'll go through the calendars just real quickly. I'm going to skip over to March, In March, you can see on March 1st, there's the ethics workshop. We're going to do a outside trainer, a lawyer from down in the Houston area who's going to train our department heads in the morning on various ethical issues to watch out for. And then that training will also be provided for City Council starting at 1:30 on Friday, March 1st. So that's our workshop for the March period. You can see our regular City Council meetings there. And then some of the City Council will be going both to the National League of Cities in D.C. That's really normally a very good event for us to make contacts with some of our funding agencies up in D.C. And then we do the same thing where it says Kaufman County Day. That's our trip down to Austin, where we make contact with some of the funding agencies down in Austin, trying to send counsel out and then come back, hopefully with some additional connections for funding opportunities. The April calendar is the next one, and if you switch over to April, you can see that we've got our streets workshop on April the 12th, and then a couple of regular City Council meetings in there as well. And the next one is May, and on May, you can see that we've got, again, a busy calendar there. A little bit different because the two meetings in May are back-to-back, 7th and 14th. And we did that to accommodate some recruiting travel that we do and to accommodate not wanting to have a meeting on the day after Memorial Day, since that tends to be a vacation week. So the thing we need to add to this is I believe that we are rounding up your consultants and your staff for confirming May the 17th as what I will call round 2 of the utility workshop. So we had a very fruitful utility workshop here recently, so fruitful and so long-lasting that we didn't quite make it through all the material. We've eyeballed May 17th in the afternoon as the date for the next utility rate workshop because that time will give us an opportunity to bring back some results of that impact fee study. So you can see those results and get some information there. And that's very strategic because your Planning and Zoning Commission will be reviewing that same data on impact fee study results on May the 23rd. So that should line up very well for you. But we'll give you a final note that May 17th is the locked-in date here just real soon. So that's a quick review of upcoming calendars, and I'll pass it back to you, Mayor.
All right, so Council, are y'all good with adding a Friday for utility rates workshop? Or another option would be on one of the meeting days of Tuesday, if you wanted to either come in earlier and do it then, or split it up between the 7th and the 14th early. What feedback do we have there? Are y'all comfortable with doing it on one day, as we did for the utility meeting?
Which is Friday between 1:30 and 5.
Yeah,
Well, I'm going to say, I know, what time did you have?
Well, for the one on the 17th, again, we're going to work at council's discretion. We would think on the 17th, start at 1 o'clock, and this time we should be done by 4. But if you want to adjust that and do it on a different day or a slightly different time, you just let us know.
So because of the engagement that I saw occur at our last meeting, I think we need to do early, and that way we're not rushed to. I want to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered, and that we have enough input for our staff to move forward with the meeting on the 20th. Is that right? Is that when they're?
It's the 23rd.
23rd. Oh, yeah, on the 23rd.
Right.
But I don't want the council to feel rushed in any way with a hard 5 o'clock if we start at 1. That's only 4 hours.
And-
But y'all tell me what you want to do.
As I'm thinking about the presentations and what we were able to cover, were we 50%, 60, 70%?
You were about 75% of the way through, yeah. Huh?
But we didn't have really a question and answer. We took notes. We did some, but not all, because we were waiting until the end to address anything.
Yeah, so you might recall we had a lengthy conversation on impact fees. And what we didn't show you was that by the time we get to May, we're going to have very specific recommendations from the consulting firm on various options on the amount of impact fees. that's going to be new information, and you're going to want a chunk of time there to really talk that through. And so what I would say is we probably had an hour and a half of remaining information. The new impact fee information is a good, kind of looking at Chris and DJ, probably cover that in 45 minutes, something along. Okay, yeah. So we got a good 3 hours of work there.
That's what I was
Easy,
thinking, yeah.
easy, yeah, uh-huh.
And again, my deal is I don't want you guys to feel rushed. I want you to be able to have your questions answered and
Mayor,
have input.
if you wanted us to, I mean, I'm just trying to help. If you wanted to, we could start that meeting on the 17th at noon and do a lunch, let you eat lunch while we're presenting, and that would expedite it a little bit in terms of how your afternoon goes, just up to y'all.
Yeah, let's look at the 17th. We still need to get input from Phil Robinson, District 5. I know he's a fireman. I don't know if he has that day off or if he's got family plans. Is this, do we know what this does with the school district's spring break? Is this during spring break, outside of spring break? Do we know? That's March? Oh, okay, okay. All right.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
The National League of Cities event in March coincides with TISD spring break.
I got you, okay. All right. Do y'all want to get back with Mike on the date, council, or?
Just so it's on record, that day is fine with me on the 17th, but you can just reach out to everybody else to see if that works for them.
Yes, Mayor, I'm okay with that, yeah.
I'm also fine. I'll double check, but I
Okay.
should be.
We'll send a note out tomorrow, and we'll just kind of recheck everybody, and then we'll lock that down.
Why does March 17th mean something to me? Is there?
May. I'm in May.
May 17th. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. I'm on the wrong one. Sorry.
Yeah. 2024.
I know, right, I know. Thank you. Are we good?
Yes.
All right. So let's staff, if you would, reach out to Phil Robinson, see if he's available and if lunch is good.
We'll get that question asked. Yes, sir.
All right. Cool. Anything else?
No, sir, that's all for that
All right.
item.
Next item on the agenda, discuss and consider appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission. This is going to be our senior policy analyst, Omar Amata.
Mayor and Council, good evening. We are discussing and considering appointment to the Planning and Zoning Board, which falls under Mr. Phil Robeson. As you can see, Clint Howie resigned for his appointment and does need to be replaced. There are a couple of applications in your packet for you to review.
So this is a discuss and consider. Would someone please table item 5.2? I want to make sure that Phil's here for that.
You can make that motion if you want to, Mayor.
I'm going to move to postpone the appointment of the Planning and Zoning Commission until our next meeting. Is there a second?
A second.
We have a motion from the mayor, a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 2, to postpone item 5.2 until their next meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous consent. Our next item on the agenda is 5.3, discuss and consider park board appointment.
Mayor and Council, before you have a reappointment for the Park Board, which falls under Councilwoman Mayrani Velazquez. And there are, on the screen, you can see that you have Leonard Lancaster, who needs to be, requests reappointment on that as well.
And while I do see Leonard here in the room, did we receive a notification or can I get a nod indicating that he would like to be reappointed? Oh, great, I see a nod. And this will be his third term. And remind us, is it 3 terms, 4 terms for Park Board?
3, I think.
That is correct. He would be, if he gets reappointed, it would be the start of the 3rd term, which would term him out after this.
Okay. And of course, I'm going to make the motion to reappoint Leonard Lancaster to serve on the Terrell Park Board.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion from Mayrani Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Grady Simpson District 2, to approve Leonard Lancaster to a reappointment on the Park Board. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Consent of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 6.1. This is going to be handled by our Assistant City Attorney, Greg Shumpert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we bring to you tonight Resolution Number 2141, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, calling a general election for the City of Terrell, Texas, to be administered by the Kaufman County Elections Administrator on Saturday, May 4th, 2024, for the purpose of electing a council member for Districts Number 2 and a council member for District Number 4 for a 3-year term, designating the polling places and filing deadlines, ordering notices of election to be posted and published as prescribed by law in connection with such election, and providing an effective date. Basically, this is the steps that were necessary to go to call the election for council districts 2 and 4 to be held on May 4th, 2024.
There's no legal reason for the 2 district members to either.
No, sir. They're perfectly.
They can make the motion and then they can vote.
They can vote. They can
Okay.
participate fully.
Got it. All right, so is there a motion on resolution number 2141?
I make a motion to approve resolution 2141.
Have a motion, is there a second?
I second.
Have a motion from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 4, a second from Grady Simpson, District 2, to approve resolution 2141 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 7.1, discuss resolution number 2144, supporting the Film Friendly Texas program and establishing the City of Terrell Film Friendly Guidelines. This is going to be handled by our downtown project manager, Raylan Smith.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. This is kind of an exciting project. This is following up from last year's Kaufman County Day. Allison and members of the chamber went and met with the Texas Film Commission during Kaufman County Day in 23, and we were invited to come back and meet with them during this year's Kaufman County Day. And so I wanted to kind of present to you what this program essentially is. It provides some marketing programs for the city, as well as some potential economic impacts and also possibly job creation. So I've got a short presentation to just kind of go over with you. Again, those 3 major things that they believe that us becoming a film-friendly community can provide. It is a certification process for the city, which they provide marketing programs by the Texas Film Commission. When you look at potential economic impacts, that would be on-site spending at local small businesses, lodging, catering, et cetera. So it would just be the marketing trying to bring these groups into town. And the network itself, which is on the next page, these are the these are the communities in Texas that currently are certified. Part of the requirement is that we submit at least 5 potential filming locations. So we believe that we've got some historic homes, definitely some of our universities, downtowns, and also our parks. I know that all of you are very much aware that we've had a few filmings done here in Terrell, whether that be movies or commercials, et cetera. And so really what this certification process would do is put some guidelines in place. The filming guidelines that were included in your packet, this just kind of lays out the do's and don'ts for coming into the city. It also requires an application so that we know when someone is in town for this. We have proposed some activity costs per day, such as if they're disrupting any public streets or public buildings, if they're wanting to film in our parks. It would also limit the filming hours so that we were able to negotiate that and know when they are going to be there. And then also it requires some notification to the surrounding property owners. And so they would have to provide proof that they did reach out to the property owners and that they did make them well aware of any filming or disruption that would be happening in that neighborhood.
Is there insurance, and do they hold the city harmless in the event something happens?
It would definitely need to be a requirement for all of
There is a hold harmless agreement that is attached to the application, and they also have to provide their liability insurance
Okay.
for the application to be approved.
And
Yeah, the city would be the beneficiary of the.
just thinking out loud, one of the things that we have different than any other municipality is we have Jamie Foxx as a, does he have a production company that we could kind of
Well,
pass this to and say, hey, would you be
maybe
interested in?
we could reach out to him and
Yeah,
say,
I don't- I think that's worth a call or.
We're definitely
text or
friendly.
someone And see where he is on that, but anybody have any
Representative
opposition
Bell.
to moving forward with this?
I was just going to say, whenever Bill was here a few weeks ago, he was asking about the status of this. So I think he was really anxious for us to get started.
Great.
As well. They've been able to bring in quite a few crews to the area.
On the locations, did you use the airport? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
To make sure I understand, for one, it makes sure that we have like a registry of who is filming in Terrell, and there's certain protocols like they should follow in order to not be like a nuisance to your neighbors.
So with these guidelines, the one good thing is that we would push everyone to make sure that they are certified through the Texas Filming Commission. So this would not be open to just any production company, but it kind of binds us to kind of their expectations, and then they help in communicating how you will behave and the things that you will do inside the city.
And here's the two thoughts that come to mind. And one, I think I heard you say, Raylan, that this would it create either through the city or through like the chamber, a budget line item that we would need to budget for?
No, it would generally, I'm sure the revenue would just come in through general. We would not have any expenses on our side. So this is just simply an application fee and just a small fee that they have to adhere to if they need access to our roads or public parks.
We have occasionally had filmmakers come by who said, hey, we'll film this here if the city spends XYZ dollar amount, right? I would say that the couple of fairly low-budget films that we've had done here that were actually very successful through M. Legend Brown, those were all deals where we did not provide some, budgeted line item handout, right? We just made sure that we had staff in the right place to help as needed. And on the other hand, there are definitely big production companies that shop their project, right? They'll come forward and they'll say, hey, we'll locate in your town if you give us X, Y, Z. This would just create a structure for us to consider that, and I think that'd be something we would have to partner with our Economic Development Corporation on if we wanted to. But no, just a standard TV commercial or TV show doing some filming here, that wouldn't create a budgeted line item.
Okay, and I guess I'm trying to think if there's any hardships that we're creating for those that want to film in Terrell. I mean, sounds like it's pretty standard. I just would like you to give me the benefit of the doubt that we're not creating hardships. We're going through the film industry, which should be pretty standard across the state of Texas.
Yeah, what I've presented to you is the template from the Texas Film Commission. So this is their standard guidelines that they have walked through with other cities. This is their recommended language and things to think about and consider moving forward. So, and they've had this going, I think, for 9 years now, or 11 maybe. Yeah. So, and they update. So I feel pretty confident in the products and guidelines and applications that they've set forward.
Thank you.
Thinking the same thing. Can you give me a couple examples of someone that may not have to adhere to this? And I think of something that could go on in our community, if somebody wanna do some research and, document it by film or, video. Can you think of just an example? I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No.
May not be bound to this.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of times you'll have, you may have some podcasts or even blogs, the video bloggers. I don't necessarily think that they would be considered a film crew. This is more of a production set that they're needing to come and set up. It's not going to be a single person filming. And really, this would be kind of those one-offs. If we do see a group of people who are filming in an area, it would be like, do you have your application and approval from the city? So I don't think that we would be targeting anyone that was doing filming, but this would be more of a revenue to market for those individuals to come to Terrell, not us preventing anything that's currently happening in Terrell, but just another marketing piece.
And I'm thinking about the low-budget movies that we've had, filmed here, shot here. Have we gotten any feedback from M. Legend Brown, or, I think he's in the business. He would be probably more familiar with this.
He's asked us to do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the $25 fee, that seems awful low.
It is.
Is that, do we have what other folks are again, we don't want to use.
That's the standard.
Is it $25 is all?
Yes, yeah,
What about nonprofits? They still have to go through the same process or no?
same process, yes.
Because that's when I think about historians and people like that. I don't want them to be penalized. I value our history in this community and in this city. And I think the older I get, the more I value it. So I definitely don't want to put any restraints and things on that. When we look at documentaries and some of our rich history here in this community, I don't want to cause any hardship.
I think really if you could look at it like the application process, there is within the guidelines, city manager discretion, obviously, for waiving fees or working within the guidelines. So I think more or less you would come down to, we really want people to let us know what they're doing, not necessarily so that we can charge them for it, but just so that we can document it and make sure, if something happens, we have an insurance on file, or, it would be safe for the city.
Yeah, and I just would also go back to the very first page of the guidelines, reminds us all that these are filming for commercial purpose. If it's not a commercial purpose, it's not even covered.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm good with it. I think you need to have something in place. For nothing else is, if they're doing a scene and they're shooting, we don't want, and they don't let us know, we got police, fire responding. But if we know, then we can let the other agencies know as well that they're going to be shooting. So if you get a call at this location, that's what that is.
Yeah, and I think this program is more about how can the state agency help promote your town to bring these production companies to you.
And we will see this on the
Next
agenda
week.
next week?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
cool. Anybody else? Thank you, Rayla. Good job. Next item on the agenda is discussion, ordinance number 3034.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members
Yes.
of the council. We will bring to you tonight for discussion only ordinance number 3034, an ordinance of the city of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, amending the Terrell City Code of Ordinances, Chapter 8, Offenses and Nuisances, by repealing Section 8, Curfew for Minors, in its entirety, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. The reason for this ordinance, Mr. Mayor, is that it's at the last session of the Texas legislature, Texas Local Government Code was amended by adding Section 370.007, which is titled Juvenile Curfews Prohibited, which basically means that state law prohibits juvenile curfews. Since we had such a provision in our Code of Ordinances, to avoid being in any conflict with state law, we've put this forward for it to be repealed, and I think Chief Sampson is here if he wants to speak to that as well. That was the reason for it.
I don't have anything specific to address. It's as simple as that. They've created a prohibition against it. The reasonable thing for us to do is to repeal our own ordinance.
I disagree with Austin. This is the first time I've disagreed with them for not allowing us to determine locally what is in the best interest of our citizens.
Correct.
And it's unfortunate that the bad behavior of a few affects all, but you still have to be, all of us, accountable to all of our residents and citizens, and it just takes another tool away from us in handling those that might get out of hand. How are we going to, as a council moving forward, be able to address the issue that this might cause?
Well, that is a good question.
Because
I will say that the enforcement of that particular ordinance is extremely low. We haven't really used it often of late. I don't anticipate it being a grand effector about prohibiting us from being able to do something with it, but as you stated, it does take away a very important tool that we would have if we needed it.
And again, it's not being overhanded and hard-handed with it, it's how you use it.
Correct.
But to have it and to see a kid or someone that's being disruptive say, you know, we do have this, I'd hate to take you in, you need to go home, right? Get off the street.
And that was typically the application. It was rarely
Right.
enforced from a citational standpoint.
Yeah.
It was almost always, hey, you know, there's an ordinance.
Right,
Got
you need to get
scanned.
home, yeah. All right, council, any thoughts?
I guess, Mayor, my only concern is maybe when we have extreme times where we need to have people in, I guess since we don't have that enforced anymore, I guess we have to kind of figure out creative ways that we can.
Well, let me talk about extremes just real quick. So let's say we have a tornado. Let's say we have a
Yeah.
major weather event.
Yes.
That's different. We would have the opportunity for the mayor to declare a state of emergency. We've seen that before. And under a state of emergency, you would generally give provision for things like, don't be in area such and such because there's down power lines and everybody's on curfew, right? You know, so you could address topics like that as they might come up, and they probably be broader than just juveniles because you probably have a reason to keep people in general out of an area when you have a natural disaster. A provision like that and the repeal of this ordinance, those are not related. We would still maintain that ability to do, hey, we have a public safety problem here, we need to have an emergency and move on.
That was my concern.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if in general, we can't do it, I understand
Yeah.
it. Maybe some adults need to have
Yeah, I would just say I've got confidence in the police department here because what you're saying is if you generally observe juveniles at a time that would have been past the curfew, now the question is, are they actually doing something wrong? And I think that the debates in Austin were all geared around, you know, well, a lot of kids these days have parents who work strange schedules. So what if the kid is in a slightly strange place at a time that's not quite, quote, right? Well, what if mom and dad happen to work a midnight shift, right? Well, maybe their family's off kilter with everybody else's family. So I think that's where a lot of the thinking down in Austin was. My comment is, the last time we updated this ordinance, it was because the county said, hey, we would like your ordinance and our ordinance to match. And council several years ago made an update because an outside body said, please make an update. This is really the same thing. I've got an outside body that outranks us saying you need to make an update, and repealing this simply keeps us consistent with state law.
I mean, last I can remember when we had trouble with teens, juveniles, is that famous night when I caught some kids, you know, it was going from car to car and they stole my cologne. But I got it back Sunday morning. But I think you're right. Right, exactly. It was expensive cologne, by the way. My son gave it to me. But anyway, you don't see anything in Terrell. I mean, from my recollection, I haven't heard any juvenile issues that we've had in Terrell.
Certainly, we've got juvenile crime just like we've got
Yes.
everything else. But, you know, this doesn't prohibit us from encountering and stopping suspicious activity. In the situation that you described, we would have had authority, whether there was an ordinance or not, to say, hey, what are you clowns doing?
Yeah.
You know, why are you over here? What are you messing with these cars? What are you pulling door handles? You know, we're not limited by the repealing of this ordinance in any way from
Yeah, that was the
contacting
last,
somebody
that
for
was the last
suspicious
event
activity.
that I recalled in my district.
Sure,
but
sure.
Was just wondering about it overall.
It wouldn't affect our ability to enforce the laws of suspicious activity in a contact stop. That wouldn't affect us at all.
So if we repeal this ordinance based on age, would we be able to replace it by using a different tactic, say the number of individuals gathering in the ordinance? Does anybody know that?
Well, let me say this, Mayor. If it in any way is, looks like a curfew, I think it would be open to question under this particular statute in the Texas Local Government Code. I did a little research on the legislative history of this when I first took this ordinance on, and appears what happened is that certain cities, not our city or our police department in any way, have somewhat abused that. They used it as a means of trying to control who's out and who wasn't, and of course, I guess like you see in a lot of things, when you abuse something like that, oftentimes you lose it, and that affects all of us, and it's unfortunate. On the other hand, I think the city manager brought up a very valid point that it does not in any way affect during emergency situations. If you declare an emergency, if we have a natural disaster or weather-related or anything of that nature, you can certainly impose the same types of, if you want to call it a curfew, you can call it a curfew, but those types of situations are still open to prevent, you know, things that would happen in a natural disaster, looting, things of that nature that could possibly happen.
Okay.
And the thing I like too, I think we can always address it. If something becomes an issue, we can always, you know, address it at that time, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and I agree with the councilwoman. If there's a trend ever that we see that we don't know about, we need to know pretty quick.
No problem.
And not let it build and build. And that way we can start talking amongst each other how we want to handle that. Go ahead.
Say, it sounds like we have other ordinances in place to address the issues that we may have or may not at this time, but in terms of crime and that's what I'm hearing from Chief at this time. And it sounds like, you know, I'm in agreement with, you know, if we start hearing of activity that's unusual, then having a report.
Sure.
Okay.
You know, there are plenty of things at our disposal that will allow us to contact somebody if we suspect there's some criminal activity afoot.
Okay. All right. This ordinance will come back to us again next
correct.
meeting.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next item on the agenda, discuss professional service agreement, Terrell State Hospital entrance. This can be handled by our downtown project manager, Raylan Smith.
So this is another exciting project. I was invited by Alan Waddell, who is the Deputy Superintendent for Construction and Maintenance with State Hospital, and also Reagan Teal. They were doing their programming for the new hospital today. So I got a sneak peek at the hospital. We are scheduled to meet with TxDOT next week to go over changing the entrance off of Birch Street to the new entrance off of Highway 80. So what you have before you right now is a professional services agreement for Kimley Horn. Everything is broken down. This contract was written such that it would be equivalent to a TxDOT project. We expect that with our meetings coming up with TxDOT, that some of these items may not be necessary since it will be a private entrance to the state hospital. But we wanted to make sure that we presented a contract that would cover all phases and all design services for such a project. I also wanted to update you, hopefully we will be planning a stakeholders meeting, which will be between the state and the city the month of March, whenever they're going to start laying out their concept designs. They still plan on being under construction by June and have you a hospital by 2027.
So Mayor, just to kind of be clear about this, we do have a little bit of land acquisition to do. This is undeveloped land that's just to the south of the state hospital and north of US 80. And we're working through that process right now. This is a total engineering cost of $659,000. And Raylan, can you say out loud for us, just to underline this, the amount that we think the construction will be?
$8 million.
So you're going to get an $8 million improvement to take all the state hospital traffic off of Bryn and off of Dallas, and the state of Texas is spending that $8 million. All we need to do is spend the engineering money, and I think that's a really great success for us.
Absolutely. And again, so this will help safety on Bryn Street with all of the traffic, getting that off and redirecting it to 80. I think this is a great project. It should have been done this way in the beginning, but it wasn't, and for whatever reason. But for our investment and versus the return that we're going to get from the state, man, I think it's a home run for us. This is Mayor Ronnie's district. Any thoughts?
Very excited. I know that
Yeah.
I see all the councils looking this way because they know I'm excited to do what's right for this neighborhood and duplicating that effort for all of our neighborhoods to make sure that we are keeping safety in mind. We have kiddos that
Absolutely.
walk, that ride their bikes, sometimes throw a ball across the street when they probably shouldn't be. And we know that a lot of traffic, which we dislike to be on our roads, damages our roads.
Day in and
So I'm
day out.
excited to have a new entrance for the Terrell State Hospital that's going to be off of 80. And the hospital with the new hospital, I think deserves a brand new entrance as well. And I look forward to the day, hopefully here soon, that we can also have a conversation about how to improve Bryn Street as a result of all the past traffic.
We're looking at some of that possibility, yes. I did want to remind City Council that with your Resolution 2104, that this was one of the projects that was covered under that land acquisition resolution. So I didn't want you to expect that would be coming back to you later either.
Very excited again, and would love any opportunity to be part of the meeting that you mentioned for the planning process
Absolutely.
for the council.
But the professional service agreement will come back next
Yes,
Tuesday.
next
or
Tuesday for
Our next
action.
meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. All right, thank you. Our next item on the agenda is 7.4, discuss design services for the construction of improvements on Newton Street and Bethlehem Baptist Church parking lot. This is going to be our city engineer, Chris Snap.
Council, Mayor, City Manager, I bring for you today for consideration discussion of engineering services. If you'll turn to 106, page 106, see if it comes up on the screen. Want to get everybody oriented so you can kind of start looking. What this is for an engineering services of KSA Engineering. Mike Burns is here today. Y'all all familiar with KSA. This would be for engineering services for the drainage improvements, water improvements, sewer improvements from Virginia Street all the way to Medora. So if you look on the map to kind of get you oriented, you're looking at Newton Street and the proposed parking lot that is right adjacent to Bethlehem Church. So you can see that we'd actually be closing section of a road there and incorporating the parking lot, making it a whole lot easier for people to go back and forth from the parking lot to the church and do it safely. So this project will include all the engineering services. It's going to be about 75 parking spots in there, and it's going to be for the construction services of the design and the drainage all the way to Virginia. So the funding will come out of the 2023 seed loan, and I ask that you approve. This is for discussion today, but this will be for approval for the city manager to sign that agreement, and it would be for $441,900.
Does anybody have any questions? And so the last time I remember talking about this project, it was going to go to their elders. Mike, do we know if that's occurred or not?
I think Raylan is still working through that process.
Oh, yeah,
Is there any
okay.
updates you want to provide there? By way of just clarity and background, so we're all on the same page, you can see on this map between Francis and Catherine, there's an existing parking lot that shows up, not great, but it shows up a little bit on this map. And again, the owner of the land currently on the north of Newton, between Francis and Catherine, that's Bethlehem Baptist. So by building the parking lot, they are trading us that land. So that's the reason for the parking lot here. This isn't a parking lot for free. This is a land swap issue. And so that's why we're doing the parking lot, because it's important for our town square project to acquire that final piece of land. So, Raylan?
Yeah, so just to update you on the contracts, as you can imagine, it's more than just a single real estate contract. And so right now we're working out the exhibits, trying to figure out where we need the space to stage construction while we're under construction, making sure that we have enough access to the areas so that we can complete this project without limiting the parking that the church has. What we're really trying to work through is making sure we don't impede the church and the current space that they have.
Okay, good. Any questions?
No questions. I just want to say I'm glad to see this drainage project going on in this area. And I think Mike knows how I feel, staff. I really wish it could have went a little further, east. We need some help in that area, but we're getting to Medora. But I just want my colleagues to keep that in mind that, maybe we'll have some additional money to do some funding or something like that to do a little more in this area.
All right.
Also excited to have the project, and so this will be just the surveying, the engineering, and landscape services for the construction plans and reconstruction. And that, tell me again, I may have missed it, what is the timeline for all of the services?
So I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Feel free to point me to a specific page here.
Next week?
Well, my timeline and Mike's timeline are a little different. So I'm thinking in about a month and a half, he'll have it all designed and done. We'll be go out to bid by May or June and have it installed by December.
Contract says that final designs will be submitted within 6 months.
Or earlier.
Or earlier.
Or.
All right.
Thank you.
Ronnie, I wanted to correct that. I wish the project would have went further west. I think I said east. I didn't want you to think you were getting a little extra.
All right. Good job.
I have received that communication, ma'am. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. So this will come back to us again
Next week.
next meeting.
Sounds good.
All right. Item 7.5, discuss resolution 2146, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, adopting the updates to the City of Terrell Employee Handbook by amending Chapters 22, Section 2, Life Insurance, and Chapter 19, Section 9, Death Benefits, and declaring an effective date. This is going to be handled by our Assistant City Manager, Mark Mills.
Mayor, Council, good evening. We've recently conducted a review of our human resources policy, of our personnel policies, and have noticed that there are a couple of sections that are in conflict with our insurance policies for life insurance. So what we bring forward to you this evening is a resolution that would amend Section 2 life insurance and remove Section 9 death benefits to bring us in compliance and be consistent with our life insurance policy.
Okay, just a housekeeping issue.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody have any problems with that? Good, thank you. Next item on the agenda is discuss end-of-year fiscal financial report. This is going to be handled by our Director of Finance, Shelley Wallace. Has it been over a year since you've been here? This is 23, this is 24? Huh? We've been waiting for you, girl. Okay. Happy New Year, by the way. Just teasing. She knows I'm teasing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm Shelley Wallace. I'm the Director of Finance, and I am bringing you the year-end September 30 financials. It has been a few months since I have stood before you. I want to tell you a little bit about what me and our team over in finance have been doing since my last presentation. So as you know, the city has invested in a new financial system, along with some of the other systems that other departments have added, converting to a new financial ERP system, enterprise reporting program, was mandatory, as our existing the city's existing financial system had been around at least since 1999. So it was time. So our team we had a team of 3 when we started the project. We have since last June added 2 support staff in an accounting technician and an administrative assistant. And with our small team of 5, we have managed to do a major system conversion and implementation that we had taken on that had been dormant for about 6 months. Since the city was so heavily invested in it, we took it and moved it forward to completion, and recently went live in that system on January 8th. At which time, or prior to that, in December, we had communicated with our different stakeholders, being departments, and within those departments, we have individuals who process payments on behalf of the city, and we also have individuals that take in revenues also on behalf of the cities of the city in various departments. So we set up, we scheduled training throughout the month of about the middle of December. We've since been doing some refresh training off and on throughout the month of January and also part of February, and that also includes our team. So we had to undergo some train the trainers, which was our finance team, and then we rolled out that training and invited our partners to come in and train in this system. So with that being said, we've also went out and recruited some internal audit consultants. So as it is our plan and goal to deliver the city's audit ahead of when we did last year. We've also, excuse me, so amidst all of that, we've also had, individuals, including myself, that had been also out ill, along with probably everybody else in the city. So that also has contributed to my absence from council. So we also have finally completed our budget work in terms of getting the budget into the new system and posted. We are now validating that information as it's posted in the system, so we can start to build dashboards for our other stakeholders, being our department heads and you all. And so with that being said, I would like to present you the 9/30 financials. So as you can see, starting with the general fund, we had a pretty good year in terms of we were almost at 100% collection of our revenue, and we were also slightly under expended in our expenses. So that led to a year-to-date excess of 431,000 plus. Our water and sewer utility fund, also we collected almost 20% above what we budgeted for revenue and were slightly over expended. However, that did lead to a $2.2 million excess of revenues over expenditures for the year ended 9/30/23. Excuse me. Our utility capital reserve, same situation in terms of, so we had transfers in and we also slightly over collected or received more in our grant reimbursement than we had originally or initially budgeted for. And so we were also nearly 10% under expended in our expenditures, as some projects were not started in fiscal year 23. So when we do have situations like that, we tend to be undercollected in or underexpended in our expenditures. Next page. So our next fund is our fleet fund, which you have known formerly as our equipment replacement fund. We have undergone a name change to better reflect the services that we are providing from that fund, and we'll use this this moniker going forward. And again, we were slightly overcollected in our revenue for fiscal year ending 2023, and just slightly underexpended, mainly because we had some positions that had not been filled, and also we were slightly over in our fuel expenditures. But in other areas, we were just slightly underexpended. Our IT fund, as you know, our IT fund is an internal service fund and is mainly funded by transfers in from other departments, and also contained in the IT budget is our Tyler Technology Project, which is our new system. That line item not only includes the financial piece, but I also understand that it includes our public safety piece and some other, and another module, which is our HR module, was also part of this budget. Our capital improvement fund. So we had a year-to-date actual of over 700,000, and so that was mainly due to, again, some projects that had not been started, but we also we had received reimbursement from the state for the Safe Routes to School grants, or reimbursement of those expenditures that we received in 2023 at $1.2 million. So receiving that grant money is a huge part of why we did so well in that fund for 2023. Stormwater. So in our stormwater fund, we were 100% collected in our revenues for 2023, and did very well in staying under expended for the year. And we also had just a couple of projects that were budgeted for but had not yet started. However, even with those projects that had not been started, even if they had been, we would have still been in a good financial space ending the year. Our impact fee fund pretty much operated, and the results are pretty on par with what I've seen historically. We have a portion of the revenues that are received into municipal development that are then transferred over into that help fund the impact fee fund. Paddock, again, we had our revenues, our budgeted revenues from sales tax were pretty on point. Our interest income, and I have another slide to share with you about that. As you see, we had budgeted only $2,400, but collected year to date over $33,000 in interest income. Tiers, again, slightly undercollected in our revenues, and that is still under. We're still researching that and just trying to gain a better understanding. I know some of the way that we are reporting has changed a little bit due to the situation with Hal Jones, that we no longer receive their reporting. So this was, I think, a first stab for us at identifying the tiers revenue and out of some tax collection information, and still managed to just have a slight deficit at the end of fiscal year 23. Power Center Fund, again, that was also a report that we at the city reported on, there were some expenditures that we had budgeted for that we did not expend, and will probably be carried over into fiscal year 2024. Our PPP fund, we were slightly under collected in both revenue and slightly under, and actually about half under expended in the expenditures due to some projects or several projects that had been budgeted but not started, which actually saves us that expenditure. We also received an EDC payment that was not on our budget that we collected on at $1 million, which basically helped offset and, you know, bring us in at just a deficit of nearly $800,000. Our airport fund, we have pretty much a similar situation. We were slightly over expended this fiscal year in airport expenses and under collected in our revenues. But we have since actually started to, analyzed those hangar revenues and just seeing what we need to do on our end to see if we can get closer to 100% collection. Our airport capital fund, so we have one of our bigger leaseholders that provide at least half of that revenue, and then we have a transfer in from another fund to offset expenditures where we were, you know, they're running kind of neck and neck. So just slightly over collected in revenues, slightly under expended, but we have nearly a $350 excess for the year. Our tourism fund. So in our tourism fund, I know on paper it looks like there, you know, we are at a deficit of over $870,000. So when we did some research into this, what we discovered was that per the agreement, some of the payments that or transfers into the hotel event center had not been occurring. And so we went back to the agreement and calculated what should have been moved in, I believe, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Of those years, only 1 year actually had transfers from tourism into the hotel event center. So what you're seeing for fiscal year 23 is really us going in, researching, and catching up those payments. And so the bottom line, the transfer to the hotel event center is the $1.1 million year to date, basically accounts for about 4 years of those transfers. And there's the flip side of that bottom line transfer in tourism that you see for hotel event center coming into that fund as revenue. Parkland dedication. So at this time, it appears severely under collected. However, we know that as a result of like our annual audit, there are some adjustment entries that will be made that will bolster that 29% revenue collected. However, it is offset by being under expended by over 65% under expended. So we have some zone improvements, some park zone improvements that were budgeted that have not yet started. And then we come to interest and sinking, which is really the fund that we pay all of our debt payments from. And so usually what you see is what we've collected slightly over, mainly due to the interest that we've earned, but also just an indication of our bills being paid. And the same holds true for interest and sinking fund number 2. And this is where, as you can see, where we hold all of all of our drinking water and clean water principal and interest payments on that debt. We pay them out of interest and sinking number 2. So I wanted to just share the latest investment schedule, or the fiscal year 2023 investment schedule with you. In many of the funds, I think the initial budget, because there wasn't as much, as you can see, $15 million when we started the year. And when I say invest, so what we're doing is those monies are sitting in PFIA backed pools. So we're putting our monies, or the city's monies, in Tex Range, Tex Star, Tex Pool, and then the BOKF consists of funds or loans that are being held by an escrow agent for various utility projects. And when those when the utility department submits a reimbursement request to the escrow agent at BOKF, then they approve that request and transfer just various tranches of money to the city based on expenditures that we have already made. So that's operating as basically as just kind of holding this cash, and as we apply for the reimbursement, that money comes back to the city. So what we did was in the spring, so most of the $877,000 that we've earned year-to-date in interest, we probably earned the majority of that from about April through September. And here's an update to the consolidated summary that you normally see at the beginning of the budget year. And this was just us updating it based on our cash and investments being audited, and also on actual operating revenues and expenditures. And then, reporting what that change in was since the beginning of the fiscal year. And that concludes my presentation of the financials. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, thank you, Shelley. I appreciate the information. I think in 2024, we can expect more interest earned on some of our monies from the pools.
Absolutely.
Because of the rate increases, which would be good for us. The projects that are started but not complete or hasn't started yet, those funds carry over to the following year. They'll be on 2024.
That would be correct.
And then as our Director of Finance, do you see any area of concern that the council should be aware of? As I looked through them, I mean, you explained everything well, so I think we're all right. But is there anything that you might say, hey, you know what? And I understand TERS is so complicated that those numbers may fluctuate a little bit until we can get a handle on how exactly to report those. So that doesn't concern me a whole lot, but, is there something there that I missed or maybe the council might have missed?
No, there is not. So, and like yourself, I too am also learning more about how those agreements for tiers are working. But as that information, so what we have been able to do is that we are seeing the tiers assessment revenues on the property, in the property taxes. They're starting to report those independently.
Right. Okay.
So they're actually being broke out on the breakdown reports that we receive from Kaufman County, from the tax collector's office.
Okay. And then lastly, would you consider the city to be in healthy or good financial position moving forward?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm good. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Mayor, I do have a question about the capital and investment fund. And the first question is, you say we had a surplus due to the $1.2 million grant, 2023?
Actually, it's a reimbursement. So the expenditures have already been paid in prior fiscal year when the Safe Routes to School project first started. So what happens is we are expending money to the contractors on behalf of this project. We turn around and send a request to the state, and they start to reimburse us in various tranches of money, depending on, how many reimbursement requests.
My second question, because my second question was, with grant money sitting there, would it have to be invested or put out at a certain amount of time, but since it's a reimbursement, I would assume that it wouldn't have to. It's for our use as a city.
That's correct.
Thank
And becomes part of their bank account.
Right, yeah, and this happens to us all the time in the Public-Private Partnership Fund and in some of our utility funds and in the capital fund. We may spend money on a grant-funded project, but if that grant agency doesn't pay us back for 6, 9, 8, some very long period of time after we finish building it, then we may wait over to the next fiscal year before we receive the reimbursement. So we're just replenishing funds that we had. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Shelley, I have a question. This is for Shelley and for Mike. And first, thank you for the report, and good to see you back. So for the parkland dedication fund, I see that we're in a deficit of almost $340,000, and we budgeted about $500,000 specifically for the Crossroads Park. And I'm trying to recall, because I know it's a matching program from Texas Wildlife and Park Wildlife. Can we recall, give an estimate of what that total cost was? I'm trying to figure out, the $500,000 that we budgeted, was that what we expected to budget? And then we'll see some of the money, because it's a matching program, we'll see a little bit of money coming in?
Just revenue-wise, you're going to see $750,000 come in from Texas Parks and Wildlife. You're going to see $1.1 million come in from a developer contribution. So you're going to have an adequate flow of funds into that park dedication fee associated with that Crossroads Park project. So, yeah.
But then the expenses, essentially, it's going to wash out. We're not going to have an excess based on what we budgeted.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that statement. Yeah, and it's really the same question that Councilman Simpson just asked. It's just related to the park dedication fund. As we rotate those expenditures through there and get paid back by different entities, there's going to be times where we're fronting money, waiting for a reimbursement. And so you'll see that fluctuation in that fund as you watch your financials on a month-to-month basis. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And also keep in mind that the parkland dedication started out the year with almost 1.8 million in cash. And so even if they take, even at a deficit, given the cash that we started the fiscal year with, it could absorb any deficit and still be healthy.
Okay. Thank you for that reminder. And so the excess fund, or I guess the better question is, how much of the funds and the excess funds from the last fiscal budget did we have that rolled over into we'll call it the rainy fund day, or rolled over into overall, our overall, what do you call it, our general budget?
You're actually on the page here that helps answer that question. So,
third from the bottom.
Yeah, look at, I'm actually going to give you a different example. So number one, where it says unaudited cash and investments, September 30th, 2023. So park dedication fund started at 1.79 million, ended at 1.454 million, okay? So that's your reserve funds that you'll be working to cash flow that project out of. And then you're going to add 750 of grant money to that, and then you're going to add 1.1 million in additional developer funds to that. So that's how that one particular fund is going to be working. I would say this is a very good overall summary of the year, though, because what you're seeing is, okay, the utility funds started the year with 2.7 million in investment and cash and investments. We went through the course of the year. Weather and other factors turned us into 2.2 million additional net change, and that ends you with unaudited cash and investments of right at $5 million in the utility fund. And so, it's hard to soak it all in all at once, but I would say spend some time looking at this page, because this really tells you from a management point of view where you stand. You're going to see the Paddock Board talk about spending down fund balances because they started last year at 2.8 million. Now they're at 3.6 million. Paddock Board doesn't want to sit on a pile of cash. They want to turn their cash into improvements that you see out and about in the community. And so this is just a good management tool, this one particular page.
Thank you for the reminder, and I appreciate the walkthrough and the consolidated summary.
You're welcome.
I have a question. The capital improvement plan.
You said capital improvement?
Okay. Like, was it just some things we didn't foresee or budget for when we look at the overage for the, like, sidewalk enhancement or downtown? Did we have any hiccups or anything that we need to be looking?
I would say the biggest frustration I have on the expenditure side of that is the Trinity Valley Community College parking lot. We had wanted to fund that a couple of years ago, where, if you recall, we did our COVID center up there, and all that COVID work with all of the, planting tents and other stuff in their parking lot and some of the other problems caused there. We really ripped up their parking lot, and we had committed to them in a contract that we would reimburse them from that. So to me, that 301, that really, I wish we'd have been making that payment in FY21, right? So that's the reason that hadn't got budgeted in that way. I think each and every one of them you can look at it and say, well, it's a little different for such and such reason. So for example, pool enhancements. Well, remember, we decided mid-year, we came forward to council, y'all voted on this, that we would do the slide sort of pay-as-you-go instead of borrowing money from the slide. Well, that's that line item that says pool enhancements. So that's just two of the examples. I'd be happy to chat about others of them, but those two are worth mentioning for sure.
So when we have those type of items like that, will that money be carried over? I mean, are we going to utilize that money in a totally different capacity because we decided to do that?
Well, yeah, and this is where I'd go back to that consolidated summary, if you don't mind, Nicole. I'll go back over to, I think it was page 128. So I don't have the FY24 budget on me, but if you look at Capital Improvement Fund, well, what's happened now? The net of everything from last year is that you are sitting on $1.5 million in your Capital Improvement Fund. And again, you need to keep a pretty healthy dollar amount in that fund because you got to rotate grants, right? So if I've got 1.5 million, do I need exactly that, or could I choose to spend that down a little bit? So we'll get you, that as you're going through, for example, as you go through creating your FY25 budget, you're going to look at how did we do this year in the Capital Improvement Fund? How did we close out last year in the Capital Improvement Fund? And you'll have a staff recommendation on, hey, should we spend that down a little bit more? Or are we anticipating future grants and we want to collect a little bit more before we spend it down? That is exactly the kind of conversation we're going to have during budget retreat time.
And Councilwoman Holmes, on the sidewalk enhancements, did you need a breakdown of what that year-to-date expenditures, or just?
I thought it might have been some extra issues or problems we had that had to be. Give me a little bit of that. Okay. What specifically? You can get it.
I need to follow up. I just need to check in the transactions, and I'll shoot you an email.
That's fine. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Thank you, Shelley. Great.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is 8.1, discuss and consider resolution 2133.
Yes.
I missed one? What I missed?
This one, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, will bring to you tonight resolution number 2133, resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, authorizing and approving execution of an equipment lease agreement with Caterpillar Financial Services Corporation for the lease of a new Caterpillar 299D3 compact truck loader and two new Caterpillar 308CR SBX excavators, authorizing the city manager or his designee to negotiate and execute all necessary documents for the lease of the compact truck loader and 2 excavators and declaring an effective date.
This is our Assistant City Manager, Mark Mills.
Mayor, council, good evening. At the last city council meeting, staff made a presentation on the acquisition of this equipment. Included in your packet this evening is a little bit more detailed presentation. I'm going to provide an overview of that this evening. And then at the end, seek council approval to enter into the associated agreements. There is essentially 3 ways that we can acquire this equipment. We can rent it, we can lease it, or we could purchase it. I think there was some confusion about rental last time, and included it in the presentation to kind of provide some more detail for you. So rental really is not a viable long-term option. Rental is a short-term option. It's the mode that we're in right now because we had some equipment that was non-functioning. So really rental is for the use of acquiring the use of specialty equipment or equipment that's needed when you have equipment that's non-functioning, which is the situation that we are in. We have equipment that was not functioning, it was surplus, we've gotten it out of the fleet, and in the interim between when that equipment became non-functioning, when we were having to rent. So that really is the short term. We have no investment in the equipment. The equipment is not ours at the end of the rental period. The next option is a lease. We can lease. Typically, you will lease passenger vehicles. There is not an option to just lease heavy equipment. So really, that's not an option for us, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that this evening. Really, what it comes down to is the best option is a purchase, and there's 3 ways that we can purchase. We can do it as pay-as-you-go. We can make a cash payment. We can finance it through the issuance of city-backed debt, or we can lease purchase. So if we were to outright purchase the equipment, it would require a large expense of funds, $405,000, which is not included in the fiscal 24 budget as a lump sum. We'd have to tap into reserves in order to do that, but we would have to come back and amend the budget in order to do that. But it is the cheaper of the options because you don't have any of the finance charges. The next option is to finance it. We can issue certificates of obligation and go out and buy the equipment. We end up with lower interest rates and for a certificate of obligation for the purchase of this equipment compared to a lease, but there are costs associated with issuing the certificates of obligation. It's about $29,000, $30,000 to issue those COs. So when you do that, even though you have a lower interest rate, the cost that you're financing goes up, and it ends up actually being a more expensive option compared to the lease purchase. So for the lease purchase, again, when the budget was put together, it was anticipated that we would lease purchase this equipment. We'll make annual payments on it. The way we've structured it, it's a 5-year agreement with 5 annual payments. The interest rate is 6.99%, which is higher than the 4.7 to 4.8 you see if we were to issue debt. But again, we're not having to eat the $30,000 in additional finance costs for bond counsel and the financial advisor. It's about $2,500 or so, I believe, is the finance charges associated with it. At the end of the lease purchase, we own the equipment, and that way when it becomes time again where the equipment has outlived its useful life, we have some equity in the equipment, and we can auction that off, take those funds, and reinvest it in new equipment. So in summary, if we were to do the cash option, the pay-as-you-go option, obviously there would be no interest. It would be principal of $405,000. It would be the purchase price of the equipment. If we were to finance the equipment using certificates of obligation, it would impact either your INS rate on your tax rate, or it would have an impact on your utility rates because it would either be the tax-backed INS portion or the utility fund that would support the purchase of that equipment. So the total price would be the $434,000, which is the purchase price of the equipment. It's fine when you issue bonds, you typically do it in increments of $5,000. In this case, it's $1,000. Where I came from previously, it was $5,000. Here, the practice is $1,000. So it would be $434,000, which is the price of the equipment plus the cost of issuance rounded to the nearest $1,000. You'd incur about $59,000 in interest costs, bringing you to a total to over the course of 5 years, $493,000 to finance the equipment. With the lease purchase, again, it's instead of $405,000, it's about $407,000 when you include the finance charges in that. With the interest rate of 6.99%, we're actually only incurring $56,000 in interest because the amount of principal is lower. So the total acquisition cost through the lease purchase agreement would be $464,247, financed over a period of 5 years. Again, the rental not being being a short-term option and not a long-term viable option, and not leases, a straight lease, traditional lease, not being available for heavy equipment, staff is recommending a lease purchase of the equipment. In order to acquire the equipment, we've chosen to go through a purchasing cooperative. If we go through a purchasing cooperative, this allows us to acquire goods and services without having to go out for a competitive bid because they've already done it. So a purchasing cooperative actually allows us to acquire the equipment and satisfy all of the purchasing requirements as defined by the state of Texas. The group that we've identified is Sourcewell. It's a purchasing cooperative which the city has been a member of since 2018. And we're requesting the city council consider a resolution this evening authorizing the city manager to execute a lease purchase agreement for the 2 excavators and the skid steer, and I'm available for any questions you all may have.
How quickly would this equipment be deliverable to the city?
I do not have an answer for you. Glenn Caldwell is not here this evening, and I would typically rely on him for that answer.
Pretty quickly, though, if we move forward. I'm thinking, I talked to Glenn a couple of weeks ago, and he felt like there wasn't an issue or delay on getting the equipment.
It would just simply be a matter of going through the paperwork and getting it delivered. We're not going to be, I do not anticipate we're waiting on equipment. They have my understanding is they have the equipment and that it's ready. They're waiting on us at this point. We've been talking to them.
We're going to be counting a number of weeks. I think we're all just hesitant to quote a number of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the sooner the better, in my opinion, because if you're leasing, if you're renting something, that's not sustainable. And I think we've all discussed it and we felt comfortable with it. And your recommendation that we move forward in an amount not to exceed $464,247, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And do we need to make that motion or just do the resolution?
If you do the resolution, we're covered. Yes, sir.
I just got some concerns, because this is stuff we need now.
Yes.
This equipment was used right next door to me 2 nights in a row, no water till almost morning. These are the type of things we shouldn't be stressing over and trying to do budget amendments. As a council, I'd be proud if we could do some purchasing. Maybe the 403,000 or 5,000 will stress the budget too much doing a budget amendment, but I think we ought to be strong enough as a council to purchase something outright based on our financial situation and our financial priors. And if we can't do that, I would really be ashamed.
Well,
but $56,000 worth of interest, when you look at the cost of one, that's almost half of another piece of equipment. But yeah, we are going to be spending that over 5 years, but still, I want us to be stronger financially when we need to fix water breaks and dig holes and do things we need for our infrastructure. I hate that we have to stress out about this type of equipment, and I don't think we've just been needing it in the last few months. It's been necessary, but just the decision to rent it just makes my stomach sick. But we've lost a lot of money, but let's do what we can now, even if we have to stretch a little bit to get this equipment and save as much money as we can for future purchases.
Well,
we did explore that option. One of the things that we looked at, the fleet fund, the fleet replacement fund, when you factor in the 24 budget, really has a balance of $309,000. So we couldn't do it out of the fleet replacement fund without exhausting the entire reserve and then tapping into another. We also looked at the capital, utility capital reserve. That's an option as well. But we really would be tapping into the reserves, and we decided that the financing over the course of the 5 years for this equipment, based on the financial system, the financial situation in those funds, was the best course of action.
And it would stress it, even just to buy one outright, that would stress it too much, those funds.
It could be done. We'd have to come back. The budget, the money's not in the budget. We'd have to come back for a budget amendment and ask council to approve that.
But just so we're on the record, I don't think the money is the biggest issue. What's bigger than that is the ability to have it under warranty for this time period. And that if something breaks down, it's just not sitting out there. We own it, and it's our responsibility to have it fixed. If your lease purchase, they maintain the equipment, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So that I think is. I agree with the councilwoman. We shouldn't be stressed over the amount of money that it would cost to own it. But what I'm hearing from staff is that it's a better way to do it, so that if it does break down, we get a new piece of equipment, or they take that one, and we're not left with nothing.
Correct.
We're not down, right?
What warranty do we get with a new piece of equipment?
I could not tell you what the manufacturer's warranty on a piece of heavy equipment is off the top of my head.
A new piece of equipment.
I believe it's something like,
I don't know that warranty number.
I could say a number, but if I did, I'm afraid that I would be misspeaking. But it's based on a number of hours of operation.
Can I just maybe offer up that, you know, I'm very mindful of the fact that we're frustrated with where we stand right now. I would offer to take the councilwoman's comments in more of a long-term point of view to say, you know, you're hearing us say we're not comfortable spending down our fleet balance right now because we just are a little bit worried about how much money is there. To me, I'm going to translate your comment over to, hey, staff, would you please get your fleet budget set up so that we can make purchases from time to time that are fully outright purchases. I'm nervous about doing that because I feel like we need to have a little bit more money than the balance there. I don't mind exploring that. I don't mind trying to find ways to do that. I don't mind asking the staff to come back in the future and make more recommendations for purchase if that's a match and we can do the warranty side of it correctly and all that. I would just say on these particular things, I think the speed to, you know, get us there, you know, we've made the recommendation based on looking at warranty, speed of delivery, and looking at the ability to get it within this year's budget without doing a budget amendment. All of those things work in this particular circumstance. So that's why we came up with the recommendation we did. I'm really not dismissive of the idea that we need to have enough money around so we can buy equipment from time to time. Probably aren't going to have everything we own be leased over the long term. So I just let you know I really appreciate the comment. I just don't quite know that I'm confident enough in our balances right now to say yes today, but we can look at that option in the future is what I would say.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed that we can't purchase at least one item. When I look at some budget items we spent in the past, it's such a small amount when I look at the percentage on our budget to just do it. But maybe I should have did more research on the warranty for a new excavator or a new skid steer to know, is the warranty, you know, a year versus the hours used versus 4 years. I know I could make a better decision, so I wish Glenn was here. But,
and I think,
okay.
I say that reminds me about, I had a similar question last time for Glenn, and trying to find my notes here. It was also somewhere along the lines of like the hours, or whichever was first, the hours versus the year. And I agree, it sounds frustrating, right, to not have the tools that your staff need, or to have somebody, it's too expensive, and we're not in a spot where it just seems like the perfect model at this time. It sounds like, Mark, you're trying to get us there. It sounds like Mike is hearing what we're saying as far as let's have some options and some of the balances to have some of those outright purchases after research, of course, but have some purchases, have some lease to purchase options, have some lease options. I appreciate all the data and the walkthrough on what may make more sense for now versus the other options that we could be looking at. And I recognize it may not be the perfect model where we want to be at, but I also don't want to slow down the process even further. So I would be in support of this resolution, and would continue to ask as well that we work towards a better model.
And to help contribute, again, I'm trying very hard not to say where I came from, the city that I came from before here. But I can tell you it was a much larger community, a population 70,000, a little bit more robust fleet fund. Anything that was $125,000 or more, we typically would issue COs for in finance. We would typically not cash fund things that were $125,000 or less. So in this case, the skid steer would be something that we would look at purchasing with cash while we would finance the others. But again, that's a significantly larger city with a fleet fund that's been built up over years.
So could you do this, Mark? Get the councilwoman, get with Glenn and find out what the difference is on the lease purchase warranty versus buying out warranty, and get her that information because I don't want to misquote. I don't know for sure either, but I thought I heard Glenn say that was a better way. Maybe I misheard.
I got one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
If we do the, I'm definitely not for the rental. How soon could we stop the rental fees that we've been paying? Is it like
As soon as we get
when
the
they get
equipment.
it- the equipment
As soon as the equipment hits the ground and is ready to go.
Yeah. I think that's the next question. How fast can we get it? Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
And I hate to delay this one more week, but I'm totally against the rental.
Right.
We need to purchase as we go, or whatever. You know, I get you.
I hear.
I'm ready next week.
So what we need to do is, this is a discuss and consider. And what I don't want to do is delay in getting the equipment, right? So putting off this vote would mean we're going to be another week, or at least, or 2 weeks.
Correct.
Of having to rent. And I think, like the council, I agree 100%. I'm angry that we're doing that. We're just throwing money away on rentals. So while this isn't the best option, it is an option. And our next equipment, I want the council's comments to be considered and giving us a good option of purchasing versus the lease to purchase, right? So that they're comfortable with it, and they can make a good, sound decision on it. And it may be that they're right, or they didn't look at it correctly, or we didn't look at it correctly, but let's get it all answered, all right? Okay, so this is a discussion, consider. This is going to be resolution number 2133. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve resolution number 2133.
Motion, is there a second?
A second.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 4, to approve resolution number 2133 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Send those present. Our next item on the agenda is 8.2, discuss and consider resolution number 2142, a resolution approving and authorizing the city manager to execute the deposit and reimbursement agreement related to the Arboretum Estates Public Improvement District Number 6 and the Arboretum Estates Maintenance Public Improvement District Number 7, and resolving other related matters. This is going to be handled again by our Assistant City Manager, Mark Mills.
Mayor, Council, in January 2024, the City Council adopted resolutions that created Arboretum Estates Public Improvement District Number 6 and Arboretum Estates Maintenance Public Improvement District Number 7. The city desires to enter into an agreement that is a deposit and reimbursement agreement with the developer. The agreement will direct the owner of the property to deposit the funds with respect to the district. These funds will only be used to cover expenses incurred by the city in connection with these districts. If at any time the funds on deposit fall below a certain threshold, the agreement calls for the owner to deposit and make available additional funds. Resolution 2142, if approved, would authorize the city manager to execute the deposit and reimbursement agreement. And again, that will call for the developer to deposit funds that the city can then utilize to pay for its expenses associated with these two districts.
Okay. Any questions? Is there a motion on resolution number 2142?
Motion to approve resolution number 2142.
Is there a second? We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 4, to approve resolution number 2142 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Council, we may approve all at one time or pull something off if you need to. If there's no one who would like to pull one of the agenda items off, we'll consider the consent agenda as presented.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Grady Simpson, District 2, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item is to receive our monthly reports. We have our housing monthly report. Denise, are you? Oh, no, presenting any? Right? Dang, I wanted to hear something. I know. Oh, she's for executive. Okay, I do get to hear for. Okay, all right, all right. So, council, if you would, please reach out to those, either to Mike Sims or staff in regards to those monthly reports. And at this time, we're going to adjourn into executive session in accordance with Section 551 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following. Section 551.071, consultation with attorneys, pending or contemplated litigation. Also, Section 551.072, deliberations regarding real property. Section 551.074, personnel matters. And Section 551.087, deliberations regarding economic development negotiations. We are now in executive session, and we'll go